are calling you, we are calling you, we are calling you for transformation, forgiveness, and healing. We are calling you, we are calling you, we are calling you for transformation, forgiveness, and healing. We are calling you, we are calling you, we are calling you for transformation, forgiveness, and healing. The earth is sacred, we are all connected. Let's align that gives us life, the spirit of life. The earth is sacred, we are all connected. Let's align with what gives us life, the spirit of life. We are calling us, we are calling us, we are calling us to transformation, renewal, and love. We are calling us, we are calling us, we are calling us to transformation, renewal, and love. We are calling us, we are calling us, we are calling us to transformation, renewal, and love.
Good morning. Please take your voices together and turn to number 10 and stand in body or spirit. We'll sing all 4 verses.
Dreamings brought here to you in the light of Prior to singing that hymn, I want you to let you know that it was Leo Hartshorn who played the drums for us, and he's not listed in your bulletin this morning, unfortunately, but thank you, Leo. That was wonderful. Grace and peace to each of you, beloved friends, as we gather together this day in the presence of God and in the fellowship of this community, whether you are joining us for the first time or have spent time in this assembly for many seasons. Know that you are welcome here, not only as you are, but as the person you are becoming. Welcome from wherever you may be, whether you have migrated to this location weeks, months, years, or decades ago, or perhaps you trace your ancestry to the indigenous on this continent who have been here for millennia. In addition to our traditional components of gathered spiritual practice, you might recognize themes, not necessarily in a particular order, of unawareness, confession, realization, processing, transformation, action. Much of what we will encounter here is part of our individual and collective work as a Repair Network congregation, as part of a coalition to dismantle the doctrine of discovery. The doctrine of discovery being colonial European political and religious worldviews we have inherited in this country, which furnished the foundational falsehood that America was discovered and enshrined the noble innocence of pioneers, or more particularly, the legal and philosophical framework dating to the 15th century that gave state church empires legal and ostensibly moral rights to invade and seize indigenous lands and dominate indigenous peoples. Now I'm going to do a bit of a brief review with you from Chris's sermon on April 13. The sermon was entitled Voices of Indigenous People. I'm going to read a paragraph from that sermon. Chris noted that Jesus knew the stories of his people, and those people were a people who invaded the land that was not empty. While the stories that Jesus told and heard were shaped by invasion and an identity that called for separation, the stories that Jesus told were different. Jesus told stories of connection to establish identity. Blessed are those we try to avoid, he said. We must do to others what we would have them do to us. These are wonderful words of connection, but actions spoke even louder than words. Jesus welcomed outcasts and crossed over physical boundaries, declared clean those whom many considered unclean, communed with the natural world. We learned from North American native tribes that we are a connected people. Jesus chose to identify with connection rather than separation, and we do well to listen to the words of Jesus and those who feel connection to the land and to each other and to Creator. And we do well to act as well. As the Spirit leads to chip away at centuries, millennia of injustice, whether that means joining the Chinook people as they seek federal recognition, or the Apache stronghold as they resist the destruction of Oak Flat. Back to me. As we move through today's themes toward transformation and action, be reminded that transformation is not a one-time event, but a continual process, a journey that unfolds day by day, choice by choice, prayer by prayer. So let us sing, pray, and reflect together, knowing that we do so not as isolated individuals, but as a beloved community, drawing the circle of reconciled relationships ever wider. I need Sylvia to join me for our scripture reading. We are going to read the words. I will be reading the words of Isaiah 58, 2 through 12, in a common English Bible translation, and Sylvia will be reading a paraphrased version inserted in between the verses that I read. Isaiah 58, 2 through 12. They seek me day after day, desiring knowledge of my ways, like a nation that acted righteously, that didn't abandon their God.
These communities of privilege ask me for decisions they consider to be fair. They believe they are entitled to God's presence among them.
They ask me for righteous judgments, wanting to be close to God. Why do we fast and you don't see? Why afflict ourselves and you don't notice?
We do good works, but you don't seem to notice, they tell me. You just criticize us. We are good people. You can tell by our thrift and piety. Plus, we tithe. Most of what we tithe benefits our own community, but some small percentage we give in charity.
Yet on your fast day, you do whatever you want and oppress all your workers. You quarrel and brawl, and then you fast. You hit each other violently with your fists. You shouldn't fast as you are doing today if you want to make your voice heard on high.
Your charity doesn't excuse your participating in injustice. You exploit the workers in your society by benefiting unfairly from their labor. You feel entitled to cheap groceries, even though large-scale agribusiness exploits immigrants in an arrangement that amounts to slavery. Harsh chemicals they are forced to endure, causing birth defects in their children, but they have no rights to health care.
Is this the kind of fast I choose? A day of self-affliction, of bending one's head like a reed and lying down in mourning and clothing and ashes?
You say your allegiance is to God, but you invest your money in industries that destroy the earth and hurt vulnerable people, industries like oil and natural gas, extraction and mining.
Is this what you call a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord?
Your charity doesn't offset the way you are exploiting the most vulnerable people among us. Human trafficking, violence, and war are the result.
Isn't this the fast I choose? Releasing wicked restraints, untying the ropes of a yoke, setting free the mistreated, and breaking every yoke?
These are the good works that are acceptable to Creator. Loose the chains of injustice. Set the oppressed free and break every yoke of bondage and injustice.
Isn't it sharing your bread with the hungry and bringing the homeless poor into your house, covering the naked when you see them, and not hiding from your own family?
Share your food with the hungry. Eat with them. Learn who they are so that you can find common cause with them. Demand rights for immigrants. Make sure they have shelter and their children not taken away from them and put into camps at the border. Make sure their needs are taken care of by struggling for laws, just laws and policies. Stop turning away from your own flesh and blood. That is, the people you victimize are your relatives, your flesh and blood.
Then your light will break out like the dawn, and you will be healed quickly.
If you do these things the Creator has demanded of you, then you will be light to the world. Like Jesus, you will be healed.
Your own righteousness will walk before you, and the Lord's glory will be your rear guard.
The light of your identity in the world will go before you, and the Creator will back you up with the glory of creation.
Then you will call, and the Lord will answer. You will cry for help, and God will say, I am here.
Then, when you call out to Creator for help, the Creator will answer you right away. You will cry out for help, and the Creator will immediately respond. The Creator is not an abstract idea the way you pretend. Your justifications for your bad behavior have created a false idea of God. It is abstract and distant, but God is nearby. Because you are unjust, God simply doesn't listen to your prayers.
If you remove the yoke from among you, the finger pointing, the wicked speech, if you open your heart to the hungry and provide abundantly for those who are afflicted, your light will shine in the darkness, and your gloom will be like the noon.
If you crush the yoke of oppression, if you quit pointing the finger at politicians, passing the buck, and rationalizing why it's not your job to intervene, if you give up your own security for the hungry and needy and satisfy the needs of the oppressed, then your light will fill up the darkness. The wicked nighttime of your age will be brightness as full day.
The Lord will guide you continually and provide for you, even in the parched places. God will rescue your bones. You will be like a watered garden, like a spring of water that won't run dry.
The Creator will guide you always. That is the Creator's promise. The Creator will satisfy your needs in a land full of life, strengthening the earth, your bodies, and the bodies of your children.
They will rebuild ancient ruins on your account. The foundations of generations past you will restore. You will be called mender of broken walls, restorer of livable streets.
You will repair the ancient wrongs and set things right. You will be known the world around as restorers, menders of broken walls.
Please turn in your voices together to number 181. We're going to do a couple songs this morning that may be new to you. Some of them were even new to me, and so we'll do some call and response with these. For this one, number 181, Creation is a Song, we'll do the first 3 verses, and we'll do the first verse twice. The first time we'll do a call and response with Harold, where Harold will play the first line, and then we'll sing it together. We'll stop, we'll do the second line, just so we can kind of get the hang of the tune, and then we'll sing it through together. Creation is a song that we can see. A sacred gift from God, let's join the harmony. The rolling of the ocean, the bubbling of the spring.
Dancing prairie meadow, it's swaying from the vine. Boiling storm clouds rising, lightning across the sky. Creation is a song that we can see, a sacred gift from God. Let's join the harmony. Majestic sleeping mountain, forest green and deep. Every living creature in our care to keep. Creation is a song that we can sing, a sacred gift from God. Let's join the harmony.
This moment for mission is about the anniversary of Anabaptism at 500 and the celebration of the 500th anniversary of Anabaptism that happened recently in Switzerland. 500 years ago, while bands of the Chinook and other peoples native to this location hunted and fished and established their community life here, a new religious group called the Anabaptists began to develop in Europe. When the movement was already about 300 years old, the Anabaptists had begun to flee Europe and began arriving here in Oregon as colonial settlers on indigenous land. Today, we hold the pain of that injustice as we celebrate Anabaptism at 500. A movement that started with a secret bathtub baptism in 1525 in Zurich, Switzerland, has celebrated its 500th anniversary this year by filling the town of Zurich on Ascension Thursday, May 29, with 3,000 or more visitors from all over the world. For at least an hour, I was waiting in a crowd pressed together outside the Zurich Grossmünster, waiting for the celebration to start. And there was a stage near the entrance that featured a dynamic, spectacular choir from Kenya, singing from the Mennonite churches there. And there were only about 1,200 of us who were eventually able to be packed inside the Grossmünster for a very celebrative worship service that centered on the theme of the courage to love. Earlier that same day, I heard a panel of activists from Myanmar, from Mexico, from Burkina Faso, from Switzerland, and from the USA, all from Mennonite communities, addressing the theme, A World on Fire, and sharing stories of their work in contexts of violence and oppression. Just prior to that celebration day in Zurich, I was honored to spend the week of May 22 to 28 in Germany with Mennonite World Conference delegates and staff as a member of the interpreter team there. And we interpreted into English, French, and Spanish for siblings from all over the Anabaptist world who were gathering for worship and consultation and decision-making. The Mennonite World Conference this year was also celebrating its 100 years of global community gatherings. And when we said our goodbyes at the end of that week of meetings and gatherings and worship together, a group of us gathered outside around a van that was leaving with a pastor who was returning to war-torn Ukraine. And he asked us especially to remember the children and the church's ministry of summer camping for traumatized youth. And he gave us a keychain that the kids have made with the symbol of praying for Ukraine. And if anyone would like to have this, I would like to give it to somebody who is ready to pray for traumatized children in Ukraine. See me after the service. I want to give you the keychain. One of my interests in these worldwide gatherings of Christians and Anabaptist siblings is to learn from those who have persisted in their witness in contexts of political corruption and oppressive governments. Indeed, it takes courage to love as Jesus loved and to build a beloved community in the face of hatred and despair. And I am grateful to have heard the voices of those who are courageously choosing to love.
Thank you, Sylvia. Now, as the ushers prepare to gather our gifts, I'll let you know that there is a folder somewhere in the pew next to somebody in each pew, and use it to note your name, say a note of welcome to each other, and or use it as a way to make it easier to greet one another if you don't know somebody in particular after we conclude this time together. So pray with me. Creator Spirit, you have shown us the meaning of generosity in the rich diversity of creation. Enable us to rejoice in the gifts which you fill us, and may that be enough for us. Amen. Thanks again, Leo. It's terrific. A reading now from our New Testament reading from Romans 12. Oh yeah, children's time. Joe, please come up and help us. Those young at heart and anybody else who wants to join up front.
Good morning. So I'd like you to hold your hand up if this is true of you. Who got done with school for the summer recently? Okay, sort of. Who has gone camping or on vacation already? Ooh, definitely some people there. All right. Who has gone to a water park already or swimming? Who has ridden their bicycle recently? Okay. Who's helped plant a garden? Well, I want to think about not the life you've been living this last month, but I want to think about what if you hadn't been born, say, 10 years ago, or 7 years ago, or 6 years ago? What if you had been born 200 years ago here in Oregon? What would your life be like then? Well, for one thing, your parents wouldn't be your parents. You would have different parents. You would have parents who were native. Maybe remember the tribes we talked about a few weeks ago, like the Kalapuya or the Tualatin? Well, you'd have Tualatin parents or Kalapuya parents, and you wouldn't spend June getting out of school. Anybody know what you do in June? What do you think, Nora?
Probably plant crops and things.
You're on the right track. Anybody know what kind of crop you might be working with? What do you think, Orion?
Corn.
Not corn. Corn, this is not a good place to grow corn. It might be with climate change, but it isn't yet. Forrest? Potatoes. Nope, there weren't any potatoes here 200 years ago. There were potatoes in America, but not here. Well, let me give you a little hint. That is the crop you'd be planting. Mushrooms? No. Onions? Close. Garlic? Close. It's a bulb, but it's not garlic. Let me give you another hint. Page 98. Well, that's because you're up on the steps with me. Come down here, kiddo. What is that? Does anybody see the name? The name is right there. What's that word? C-A-M-A-S. Camas. Have you ever heard that word? How would you describe that plant? It's a flower. What color is it? Finley, what do you think? Kind of a purple. Sometimes it's blue, light blue, sometimes it's purple. And these are giant camas bulbs. Now, what in the world would you do with these 200 years ago with your parents? Well, you'd have about 5 soccer fields that were specially for your parents. Now, they wouldn't be soccer fields, but that's how big an area you would have. And it would be a place that's pretty flat and gets a little wet in the winter. But in the spring, these beautiful flowers come up, and they're kind of purple or a little bit blue, and they would cover the whole meadow with camas flowers. And that would be your family's special place. But you wouldn't go there, you wouldn't harvest when it was blooming. You'd wait until the blooming was all done, until the flowers had made seeds, and the seeds had started to drop. When everything was dry enough to dig, you would go there and you would dig. Now, because you're a kid, you probably wouldn't have to do the hardest work. That would be your parents. What kinds of things might you do? If your parents were digging away, Nora, what do you think? You might plant the seeds from the flowers. What?
Water them.
You wouldn't have to water, believe it or not, because they can wait until fall for the rains to start again. Now look at the size of these bulbs. Are some big and some little? Some are medium, right? What would you do I can think of an easy job for you. Would you eat every single one of these bulbs?
If they were clean, yes.
If they were clean, yeah, you wouldn't eat them with dirt all over them, would you? Well, would that be a good idea to eat every single bulb that your family dug up?
No.
Why not?
Oh, yeah.
Why not? If you ate every single bulb, what would you eat next year? Uh-oh, you'd have famine next year because there would be nothing left. So what would you need to do? You would pick up the really big ones, and guess what you'd leave? Take a look. Any idea what you'd leave? You'd leave the tiny ones, exactly. Why don't you help me do that? So your parents would be doing the hard work like digging. If anybody feels like getting their hands a tiny bit dirty, come on up here and pick out the big ones and stick them in this box or basket. And if maybe a medium-sized one or two, but let's put all the little ones back in the place where you dug. Or we'll just leave them in the tub for now. Those are probably too little. Yep, that one could probably go. So we're going to leave all those to grow bigger, and next year they'll be flowers, and we can come back. Now, has anybody ever eaten camas? Well, none of us probably have, but this was one of the main foods of Native Americans, like the kalapuya. And they would put these in pits with hot coals, and they would roast them for 36 hours. And if you left it in just the right amount of time, it got really sweet and really good to eat. I've never had one, but that's what I hear, that they're really sweet. And then they would, once they were cooked, then they would dry them and turn them into a powder, and they could use that powder all winter long to feed their family, to make cakes. Sometimes they even made pancakes out of powdered camas that they had cooked. So, where are those camas fields today? Because they used to be all over. Where are they? Have any of you ever seen a camas field? Nora, have you?
Sometimes we drive out, I've seen some of them in Michigan, but not a big giant field.
Yeah, there's definitely some around, but there aren't the giant fields there used to be. Where did they go? Well, let me give you a hint. The Portland airport is on a camas field. So all those camas went away because the Portland airport got built there. Can you think of another kind of activity that humans might have done on a camas field? What do you think? Train yard? Farms, like strawberry farms, or maybe a farm where they grow grass seed. Somebody came and took all those camas fields away from the natives. Almost all the camas fields. And who do you think those people were that took them all away? What do you think, Forrest? They were Americans, exactly. They were people that came from the east in wagons, or maybe they came on a big ship, but they took it away. They took it away because they thought, nobody's using this place. They didn't even pay attention to what these people were doing with the camas fields. They just thought that they were wasting the land, and they took it away from them. Now, why am I telling you all this? Well, I'm telling for a couple of reasons. I'd like to give you a gift after church. So if you'd like, you can have one of these small bulbs to take home and plant in a place that isn't going to be disturbed in your yard, and it'll grow into a nice flower. And it can be in a place that's a little bit sunny and a little bit shady. That'd be perfect for it. But the reason I'm telling you this is because as followers of Jesus, we really, really, really are encouraged to try to be like Jesus. And that means repairing things when things are wrong. And stealing people's land is a bad thing. Now, can we fix that and put all the camas fields back in place? No, we probably can't fix everything. But we can fix small things. We can work on ways to be more like Jesus in repairing some of the damage that we did to the native tribes when we took away things like their camas fields. So that's what we're going to be talking about later in church today. But you, whenever you see this, if you come and get a camas bulb from me later, I'll be happy to give one to you, or even two if you have a sibling that's not here today. When you see this flower in the future, that beautiful purplish blue flower, maybe you can think of ways to repair some of the damage in relationships that have happened because of people's greed in the past. Let's pray together. Jesus, thank you for loving us. Thank you for this beautiful world with the beautiful camas flowers blooming. Thank you for the native people that were here before us. Help us find ways to repair the damage that we have done in our greed and our ignorance. Amen. There is no children's worship downstairs, so you can go back to the person you came with. Don't forget to come get one of these afterwards from me.
And now reading Romans 12 from the First Nations version. So then, my sacred family members, because Creator has shown us such mercy and kindness, I now call on you to offer your whole beings, heart, mind, and strength, to the Great Spirit as a living sacrifice. Do this in a sacred and spiritual manner that will make Creator's heart glad. Do not permit the ways of this world to mold and shape you. Instead, let Creator change you from the inside out, in the way a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. Great Spirit will do this by giving you a new way of thinking, seeing, and walking. Then you will know for sure what the Great Spirit wants for you, things that are good, that make the heart glad, and that help you to walk the path of becoming a mature and true human being. Thanks be to God.
Please turn in your voices together to number 443. I have decided to follow Jesus. We will sing the 3 verses in English. Oh, I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. No turning back, no turning back. No one go with me, I still will follow. No one go with me, I still will follow. No one go with me, I still will follow. No turning back, no turning back.
Good. So Nathan, you were part of the pilgrimage on the Yakima Indian Reservation in April, along with Bruce Coons and Lisa Hughes. And so I just, we haven't had much of a time. Lisa gave us a minute for mission a couple of weeks ago, but I wanted to give you also an opportunity. You've written some reflections about your time there, and thought we're going to do a little interview, and we'll see how that goes. So,
Hopefully it stays scripted. So if you ditch the script, I may be lost, but...
well, we'll see how it goes. Well, so why did you participate in that pilgrimage?
So, and I may be reading part of these because, well, we cheated. He sent me the questions ahead of time. I was made aware of the opportunity by a member of the Bison Coffee House group. We meet informally on a Tuesday, second Tuesday of each month. And I was initially ambivalent, but gradually became interested in attending. Particularly when Bruce Coons said he'd be interested in attending, and then of course Lisa Hughes joined us as well. I had read both of Sarah Augustine's books on decolonization, Land is Not Empty, How Then Shall We Live. I wondered if there would be new information, and it just turned out there was momentum in joining the pilgrimage. So it looked interesting, the itinerary, the agenda, and all the things that were going to happen. I didn't really join in solidarity, because these pilgrimages are supposed to, be an indication of solidarity. But nevertheless, I just went. I joined out of curiosity, interest in travel, seeing new things.
So describe the life on the reservation.
So the lodging where we stayed was in the middle of agricultural fields. Lots of tree fruits and endless fields being prepared for hop production. The largest hop producing region in the United States. The broader Yakima Valley is the largest agricultural county in the state of Washington. Population on the reservation is over 50% Latinx. Enrolled Yakima tribal members around 10%. So there are no immediate visual indicators of that income levels are less than average. Infrastructure, roads, public spaces seem adequate, except that one begins to notice that farms are large agribusiness operations with some visible signs of farm labor housing, some junk cars parked here and there. So I didn't really get challenges of life, or a sense of challenges of life on the reservation until we had dinner with the Mending Wings youth dance and drum group, a youth development, Christian-run youth development organization, native Christian. And I heard some personal challenges being faced by the dance leader. She was in her early 20s, trying to maintain employment, continuing vocational education, and being a single parent all at the same time. And then a couple of other things. I'll just try to make this quick here. We heard a presentation by Bree Darkhorse at Heritage University. She is a lawyer who gave up a partnership in a law firm to take a job as a Department of Justice prosecutor, who spoke very honestly, not in an official capacity, about the historical trauma that as being one facet in the lack of criminal accountability in reservations and on reservations for missing and murdered Indigenous women. She just explained, it was a very fascinating presentation about the complex network of federal, state, tribal law that essentially make it very difficult to keep public safety on track on reservation lands. Okay, and then the third indicator of life on the reservation. Amy Nunez, professor at Heritage University, spoke about the academic experience of students with undocumented parents. Amy spoke of her own fear of the possibility that her undocumented parents might suddenly be forcibly removed from decades of life in this country. So she led us through a series of readings about families in the local area who had been impacted or detained for deportation, sort of as an exercise to help us embody the fear of what so many people on the reservation feel. Okay, so that was 3 items: Mending Wings, the lecture or presentations from Bree Darkhorse, and then also from Amy Nunez. giving me sort of this idea of what it's like to be on the reservation. Hopefully that was complete enough.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, we've talked many times about how challenging life is for indigenous people, not just here on the Yakima Reservation, but throughout the country. And I was just thinking, there's a lot of reason for Native people to feel pessimistic. And so I would just ask you, given the history between the Europeans and Native peoples, are they pessimistic? And was Sarah Augustine, your host, pessimistic?
Okay, so in response, I'm going to read a poem read to us on the pilgrimage by Dewey Bill, the staff person with Mending Wings, the nonprofit youth advocacy org I just spoke about. It doesn't necessarily represent the 500 plus indigenous tribes and the 300 plus languages on this continent, but at least represents some Yakima youth reclaiming their indigeneity. So here it is, Why We Dance. We dance because years ago our grandmothers and grandfathers danced with visions of us strong in their hearts. And though they are gone from us, they are here in our blood and here in our breath, lifting us to the sky, to the Creator. We dance for our families. We dance for those who cannot dance. We dance for our babies and for our elders. We dance in memory of all those who have left us and can no longer join us in the dance. We dance to give ourselves for all that has been given to us. We dance for the coming year. We dance for the good day to come, and not just for us, but for the whole tribe. We dance to remember the hardships put on us by the government and by the church. And when things become difficult, we dance our way through the bad times. We do not carry bad thoughts in the dance circle, for each bad thought affects us all. We dance to pray. For to dance is to pray, and to pray is to heal. Regarding Sarah, she has no time for pessimism and bitterness, rather uses and works through lament toward action. She writes, "Can I be sure my effort will," this is my script, "can I be sure my effort will be rewarded? Will the world change as a result of my labor? I do not know. I choose to leap into the dark, joining my ancestors in the flow of time. I give my life because I must. It does not matter if there is an impact discernible to me. I cannot live for rewards defined by my lifetime. How can I predict outcomes? I leave that to the spirit of life." In our talking circle gatherings with Sarah, Sarah Augustine, by the way, was a co-leader, or actually de facto leader of the pilgrimage. And Sarah visited here, when was it? Fall of 2023, or was it spring of 24?
Around then.
It was some time ago. In our talking circle on the pilgrimage, she asserted that her goal is to radicalize us, to send us home to prepare groups for cultural change within our congregations, not simply take a liberal worldview and do nothing. The Coalition to Dismantle the Doctrine of Discovery has a 100-year vision of its decolonization work, noting that meaningful change requires collaboration and energy across multiple lifetimes. So none of this really smacks of pessimism, either among the youth or among the leadership, like as with Sarah.
Yeah, knowing Sarah, she was also at the Pacific Northwest Mennonite Conference in Kalispell last weekend, does not strike me as a pessimistic, downtrodden, bitter person. She is hopeful and she is joyful. And so, you know, it occurs to me that many times we hear about things that we have done. Joe mentioned it in the children's message, and our ancestors have done. Do we have cause or right to be pessimistic ourselves?
I am, and we of European descent, I am, of course. We are part of a collective history that both enjoys stolen lands and continues to benefit from that historic defrauding. Having benefited and not having been victimized, I expect I should be less prone to bitterness. I don't feel bitter. But we might have some reason for pessimism. Settler colonialism, represented by us of Euro descent, is sort of imbued with a logic of extraction. We perceive the earth as a set of commodities which supports our perpetual growth in order for us, for our economy to thrive. So our unchecked extractive model is on a trajectory to bring life support systems on this planet to ecological collapse if we don't be careful. We are depending on the systems that we are depleting the systems of life that we depend on to live. So while earth, land, nature sustains every part of our lives, our health, economies, and very existence depend on the health and well-being of the natural world. And so if we don't take care, we may have reason to be pessimistic. So that's my answer.
In your reflection that you offered before we met today, you really bring out some important points about what is sacred, what Native people hold sacred, maybe what we hold sacred. I wonder if you can speak to that just a bit.
So books have been written about this by theologians, social scientists, philosophers, and other scholars, and without having read enough of those books, I will answer this question in 2 minutes. Here is the American exceptionalist response. What do we hold as sacred? Liberty, equality, individualism, rule of law, maybe. Pursuit of happiness, manifest destiny of economic expansion, superiority of our culture and institutions. What should we hold as sacred? If I take my cues from indigeneity, then the natural world and the interconnection of all life. This reverence stems from a deep connection to the land, creation stories, spiritual practices, which just brings us to Oak Flat. Was Oak Flat mentioned in our bulletin today? Maybe. Oak Flat, indigenous land, contains high-grade copper ore of significant size, embedded 1,300 meters below the ground. Copper sustains and supports our civilization everywhere around us. Electrical transmission lines, wiring from homes, buildings, industrial facilities, motors, generators, transformers, electronics, transportations, consumer goods. And so our way of life takes precedence over the sacredness of land held for centuries by the Apache, under the logic that there is no requirement made by the government that members of the tribe stop their spiritual practices. They just need to find a new sacred place to do it, because it must be more sacred for us to extract copper at low prices than to enable continued economic growth. So I am reminded of a simple inscription of the Yakama Nation cosmology within their cultural center. Take only what is necessary, leave no remains to upset others. So contrast this with a worldview of our advanced civilized ways that would use a new technique to excavate ore bodies 7,000 feet under the ground. Material from the mine would spread toxic waste across 1,000 acres of public land, and the mine would leave a crater up to 2 miles deep, 2 miles wide and 1,000 feet deep. Further, let me just keep going on here. A New York Times religion editor pointed out that there is a negative relationship between meaning and gross domestic product per capita. We may need a reconsideration of spiritual pathways to well-being, which is an insight similar to what early followers of Jesus recorded for us. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul? So following this call of Jesus is part of our evangelism as a community of Jesus loyalists. We need copper, but not at the expense of impoverishing the spirituality of ourselves or that of others. So I represent both the individual and collective wealthy who can pay more and consume less as part of our effort to hold the land sacred.
Well, I have a couple questions beyond this, but I think maybe I'm going to save them until after worship, because we're going to meet after worship. We have a guest speaker with us today who will talk to us about, who's from the Dismantling the Doctrine of Discovery. In the back, coffee will be available and tea, and we'll talk about some things that can be done, some physical, tangible things that can be done.
And some of those are printed in the bulletin, are they not?
They are.
Okay.
So,
Very good.
yeah. There's a whole page in the bulletin that includes many of those things, and we'll talk about some of that along with maybe some of the things that get in our way. But I'd like to wrap up our time here. If you would join me in prayer, please. Gracious and loving God, thank you. Thank you for these words, experiences that we have. You are God of all. You are Creator. Thank you for the wisdom, the teaching that you've given us today. Help us not to wallow, not to stop, not to feel shame and guilt, but to move forward as Sarah moves forward, as many do, to take action and to do what's necessary to make this world and your creation a better place. We pray in Christ's name. Amen. Nathan.
Please turn again in your voices together to number 24. This is a song we sang earlier this spring on the Sunday where we focused on Indigenous rights, and so it might be familiar to some of you, but since it may be only the second time we've sung it here, we're going to line it out back and forth together, and then we'll sing it a few times through. Also, Leo, thank you for tapping, and you can keep that up. There's a river. I'll do a call and then you can respond, so I'll just line it out. There's a river of life that's flowing from God's throne. There's a river of life that's flowing from God's throne. A river of life that's flowing from God's throne. A river of life that's flowing from God's throne. Won't you come on in and see? Won't you come on in and see? This river will set you free. This river will set you free. Way-ya-hee-ya, way-ya-hee-ya, Yahweh. Way-ya-hee-ya, way-ya-hee-ya, Yahweh. We'll sing it through 3 times. There's a river of life that's flowing from God's throne. A river of life that's flowing from God's throne. Won't you come on in and see? This river will set you free. Way-ya-hee-ya, way-ya-hee-ya, Yahweh.
a river of life that's flowing from God's throne. A river of life that's flowing from God's throne. Won't you come on in and see? This river will set you free. Way-ah-hey-yah, way-ah-hey-yah, way. There's a river of life that's flowing from God's throne. A river of life that's flowing from God's throne. Won't you come on in and see? This river will set you free. Way-ah-hey-yah, way-ah-hey-yah, way.
Good morning. How many of you remember Pat Smith? My husband, Pat Smith. How many of you knew that he is almost, well, more than 3/4 Modoc and Wintu Indian and a little bit white? Few of you knew that. Yeah. The Smith name came in 1873 via a U.S. cavalry officer, Harrison Tippecanoe Smith, who came from Connecticut to help fight the Indians in the Modoc Wars. He was 53 years old when he took a captive Modoc woman, Marthiel, who was 17 years old, took her for his wife. And she and Harrison were the great-grandparents of Pat. Harrison listed his post-war occupation in the U.S. Census as an Indian hunter, whatever that means. Did you ever question Pat's citizenship? No. President Calvin Coolidge signed into law the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924. Pat was born in 1926, so he was automatically, quote, a citizen, but his parents were not considered citizens, even though all of his ancestors had lived on Klamath County land for 10,000 years. But they weren't citizens until the U.S. government declared that they were. The citizenship gave them the right to vote, except in Arizona and New Mexico. They didn't honor that until the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So if you were Indian, you couldn't vote back then. He was raised by Indian grandparents. There's a story behind that. But one of the first stories he ever told me was about how poor they were. The gathering of the Camas. Pat and an Indian friend of his got a canoe one year and went over to Timothy Lake and gathered it's called wokus. It's the water lily seed pods, and they made cereal out of that. So I had mounds of water lily blooms drying in my backyard for a long time. I never learned to love wokus, so, but his first great experience being raised by very poor people, and he was so excited because his grandma baked a cake that had frosting on it. That was celebration of him going to school. And he had a piece of cake in his lunchbox. And he sat down to eat lunch, unwrapped the cake, and a little white girl next to him reached over and took the cake. And the first story he told me, he said, I knew there was nothing I could do. She had the right, I did not. He was sent to Indian boarding school. So first time when he was 10 years old, he has no idea why he was sent, didn't know the people that took him, went from of just outside of Klamath Falls, about 40 miles east of Klamath Falls, in the area where he grew up, to Chamawa, down here at Salem. Stayed 2 days, put everything in a pillowcase, and walked back home. Have no idea how many days it took, but he told about sleeping in the park one night with a stray dog that kept him warm. Imagine the 10-year-olds in our church. Then when he was 12, they sent him to an Indian boarding school in Sparks, Nevada, and he stayed 2 weeks. And he said, by then I'd learned how to do this, so it was easier to go home. But he went home, back to the ranch in Nampa, Idaho, at age 14. And there he raved about the man who was the head of the boarding school there, how kind he was. And by that time, Pat was riding rodeo. And they took the kids to Caldwell, Idaho for a rodeo, and he rode and won enough money to buy a bus ticket home. So they got back from the rodeo to the boarding school, and he went back to home territory. Anything that identified them as Indian in the schools was forbidden. Any clothing that they brought with them that wasn't traditional American white, any long hair, their language, cultural identity was taken away, forbidden, and they were punished if they tried to maintain those things. The element to eliminate traditional American Indian way of life and replace it with mainstream American culture was the purpose of the boarding schools. They had a slogan, "Kill the Indian to save the man." Pat was one of 44,000 Indian troops serving in World War II. He enlisted the morning of his 17th birthday. He was on a battleship in the Pacific lowering bodies over the side when he was 17 and a half years old. Came home, had veterans benefits to go to college, went to college, found a college in Texas that would take him with no high school education. There was no high school for Indian kids. He became a Christian while he was there, and he married Virginia. They lived in Texas for several years, had 2 babies while they were down there, and she refused to allow Native American to be put on the birth certificates because she said the children's lives would be in danger if it was known that they were part Indian. So after he moved to California, he went to court, took his tribal papers, went to court, and got that heritage put on their birth certificates, but it was not safe in Texas for that. In 1954, the U.S. government reclaimed all the reservation land. That war, the Modoc War in 1873, after that they were given reservation land both in Klamath County and in Oklahoma. In 1954, the U.S. government reclaimed all of their reservation land. And Pat's family was forced to give up their ranch, was part of the reservation lands. They received $30,000 for 1,200 acres. And Klamath Lake was part of the reservation, but because they couldn't grow anything on the lake, it was counted as no dollar value. And that case is still being reviewed over and over, tried to get it into the courts since 1954. Even though it was already being used as an irrigation source for Southern Oregon and Northern California. Pat later established an electrical contracting business in Grants Pass. He had to be off the street by 10 o'clock at night because he was an Indian, and there was a curfew until the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And he couldn't buy vanilla extract for Virginia's baking because the extract was 4% alcohol, and Indians could buy nothing containing alcohol. When he was 5 years old, his dad got caught smuggling a case of whiskey from California into Oregon. He went to federal prison for 5 years. And one of Pat's statements is if he'd have been a white guy, he'd have just slipped the cop $10 and gone home. So there was no dad in the family from he was 5 till 10 because of that incident. All these legal injustices remained in effect until the Civil Rights Act in 1964. The curfew, the refusal to buy vanilla extract. I mean, how much would you have to drink to do any damage? So I met Pat in 1968. Nothing in my background, either in school, in church, or in my home, had ever taught me anything about these injustices. All I ever heard was the stories of the warlike responses of the Indians against the white settlers. That was the story. I grew up in a household of prejudices against anyone not mid-American white Protestant. As I came to know Pat, I began to be transformed in my understanding through his history, his kindness. Many of you comment on Pat's kindness, and his relationship with God. I was being renewed in my mind. And I'm reminded of that children's song, red and yellow, black and white. They are precious in God's sight, all the little children of the world. To be that kind of transformation is a possibility for all of us. You've heard stories here today, you've heard responses here today that it's tweaked something in some of you. May we all be renewed in our understanding of the needs and the value of all of those around us. Maybe we find ways to restore identity and redeem the injustices for those that are also created in God's image. We're seeking the peace of this city, and this city contains members of more than 30 Native American tribes. What is our calling? What is my calling? My calling right now is to stay involved with Native rights because of all the things that I learned out of that relationship with him. So that's my continual prayer, is that I will not see anyone as not created in God's image and not see anyone as not equal to me. And that's been a long journey. I grew up in a household that didn't love very well. How about prayer concerns for the rest of you? Nobody? Yes?
For the work of the Apache Stronghold as they seek to maintain rights for Native people in Oak Flat.
Yes. Any others? Okay.
Was there another prayer? Leo is going to lay down a beat, and we're going to pray as he does that. Would you please open up your hymnals to 651, and we'll respond to prayers that I'll offer with hymn number 651 as Leo plays a quiet rhythm behind. And we'll respond with two refrains, with both of these first two lines. They go like this. And we'll do the native version. Way ah hey ah hey ah hey oh. Way ah hey ah hey ah hey oh. And just keep going. That we would see all things and all people as parts of God's creation. Way ah hey ah hey ah hey oh. Way ah hey ah hey ah hey oh. For the Apache Stronghold in Oak Flat, and for all who seek to respect the rights of all people, particularly indigenous people. Way, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, oh. Way, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, oh. For all the indigenous plants and animals who have been here for tens of thousands and much longer years, we pray. Way, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, oh. Way, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, oh. For we, whoever we are, those who have come to this nation in the last several hundred years or just in the last few, that we would respect those who have been here for such a long time. Way, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, oh. Way, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, oh. For those who call this nation, this continent, home now, who sleep inside houses, who have shelter, who do not have shelter, for those who are living around our building and in our city. Way, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, oh. Way, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, oh. For children in Gaza and Palestine, for children in Ukraine, those who have been traumatized by war. Way, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, oh. Way, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, oh. And for this congregation, that we might hear your word, and may it fill our lives and lead us forth to do your will and to work your purpose in the world, loving and gracious God. Way, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, oh. Way, ah, hey, ah, hey, ah, hey, oh. Join me in the Lord's Prayer. Gracious and loving God, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sin, as we forgive those who sin against us. And save us from the time of trial, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, and the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen. Thank you, Leo. Thank you. Thank you all for being here today. I want to offer a couple of announcements, and there are a few people who have some. First of all, Family Promise. We've been partnering with for 3 years, as it turns out, and they're going to celebrate their 3rd birthday in Normandale Park. Susan, back there, has a stack of these cards that I'm holding in my hand right now, and you might consider putting July 12th, Saturday, from 11 o'clock to 3 p.m. on your calendar, picnic in the park. They'll provide hot dogs and drinks. If you'd like to bring a potluck item and join them, our partners, for a day of celebration in Normandale Park, that would be great. I do also want to welcome Hallie Lou Rogers. Is she here today, right now? Hallie? Ah, right back there, thank you. Hallie will be joining us after worship today in the, we'll just go in the sanctuary in the back, the old chapel. She's going to join us in a conversation to follow up with the theme of today. She's with the Coalition to Dismantle the Doctrine of Discovery here in Portland, and she has graciously and kindly offered to join us in that conversation as we think about where we go from here. So please join us if you're able. Yeah, Kristen, you've got another announcement, I think. Okay.
Sylvia noted earlier that we're in this 500-year anniversary year of Anabaptism, so we're going to do a history book study for anyone that's interested, starting July 23. If you'd like to join this, let me know very soon by next week, because we're going to order the books. And the book is called Radicals and Reformers, a survey of the global Anabaptist history by Troy Osborne. And we're going to meet Wednesdays at the new Steeplejack Union down the street. So yeah, let me know if you want to join or if you'd like a book.
Casey, did you want to say a word also? Do you have an announcement? No? Okay, very good. Next week. All right, look forward to that. All right, well, one more? Okay, very good.
Hi, it's Vicki. When I came in, there was a young man, maybe homeless, who was sitting against a tree outside with 2 dogs. And one of them is a beautiful, beautiful husky. And he says, she is dying. Asked me to pray for his husky. He was in tears and said, could you ask everybody in there to pray for her too?
Indeed.
I guess we all know what it's like to lose somebody or a pet that we love. So there we go.
Indeed. This man is a friend of our congregation. I don't think there are any enemies. We have friends. He is one of them. Known him for many years. Aaron. All right. Well, let's sing a final song, shall we?
Stand and body your spirits and turn to number 28. The opening. Oh, many and great, O God, are your works, maker of earth and sky. Your hands have set the heavens with stars, your fingers spread the mountains and plains. Lo, at your word the waters are formed, deep seas obey your voice. Grant unto us communion with you, O Son abiding one. Come unto us and dwell with us. With you are found the gifts of life. Bless us with life that has no end, eternal life with you.
We are blessed with eternal life, and that life begins now. We are in the midst of eternity. God has blessed us richly. God has blessed all richly. Let us turn our eyes to God and share with others that hope which we have. And if you meet someone who doesn't seem to have hope, share this hope with them, because they may have no one to share it with them, if not for you. Go in peace.